China.
China.
China. China.
China.
China. China.
China.
Let's start with pointing out three major events which are linked to China's ambition to take over the leading economic position in the world. First of all, Xi's Made in China 2025's economic project aims to displace the US as the world's technological power. Second, Shanghai was hosting China's International Import Expo for the first time, which already shows China's ambition to open the Chinese market to the world and to increase international trade. Third, as we've already seen in our previous documentation about China and the US trade war by Mr. Chen last week, China's economy started to have an impact on other countries worldwide. Therefore, the trade war between China and the US, which has started in 2018, can already be seen as a consequence of China's growth over the last decades. So, over the last 500 years, Western economies were regarded as the largest and leading economies in the world. But since the Cultural Revolution has China's nation, economic development became the highest politics in China. In general, China is the fourth largest country in the world with the biggest population. Nowadays, it consumes a huge amount of FDI and it became the largest manufacturer in the world with the largest volume of export. Consequently, the success of economic development creates new economic, geopolitical, and even psychological pressure in both the US and the EU. So, how will a rising China affect the world?
Yeah, but maybe because we own the biggest power of manufacturing in the world. And if we care much about our brands, I guess later on we may get rid of this problem.
I think it depends on what you buy as well. We are not so trustworthy of the food here for now. Yeah, I guess we take it one step at a time. Right.
In the world of economics, China's rise is already starting to show significant influences on the rest of the world. Over the last decade, it had one of the quickest growing GDPs on the entire globe. Most projections say that it will manage to catch up with American GDP before 2050. The picture seems even more dramatic when we take into account the lower price levels in China and look at the GDP with purchasing power parity. Here, China already overtook the United States in 2014, which shows the real size of the Chinese economy. However, we should keep in mind the much bigger size of the Chinese population. This means that GDP per capita is still much higher in the United States. As China will become the biggest economy of the world, it will also try to promote its currency, the yuan. Today, most financial products or contracts are still priced in dollars. However, since the IMF has upgraded the yuan to a reserve currency, the demand for Chinese money at central banks has risen sharply. The liberalization of the yuan exchange rate is just one single step in the government's effort to promote the yuan as a global reserve currency and to increase trust in its monetary policy. If the Chinese yuan is to replace the US dollar as the leading international currency, there is still a long way ahead. However, it is not impossible to happen. In order to become a more advanced economy, China's exporters are also suffering under bad reputation of low-quality Chinese products. To combat this issue, President Xi Jinping has launched an initiative called Made in China 2025. This sets out to promote high-quality Chinese products and make other parts of the world aware that China also produces high-tech.
I think that there is some or few cultural values shared by Chinese people that can't really be adopted to Western cultures. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, there are two concepts that could help us understand this. Let's begin with the concept of soft power, coined by the political scientist Joseph Nye. Soft power can be understood as the use of a country's cultural and economic influence to persuade other countries to do something rather than the use of military power. An example, to help craft a positive image, China has been investing massively in its foreign language media. Xinhua, the government's main news agency, has opened nearly 40 new foreign bureaus between 2009 and 2011, bringing its total to 162. and it hopes to have 200 by 2020. The number of Xinhua correspondents based overseas even doubled during that time. In December 2016, the state broadcaster rebranded its international media service, calling it China Global Television Network. China Daily, the government's main English language mouthpiece, pays for inserts in newspapers such as the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal. Nevertheless, media has by now reported that Donald Trump's presidency may deal a heavy blow to the United States soft power. If that arises from the appeal of a country's culture, political ideals, and foreign policies, then America's soft power is threatened in these domains. China's political system may not exert much of a global pull, but it could begin to look a bit more attractive to some people when compared with America's.
Yeah, I think because two things. One, I think with the rise of middle class in China, so there will be internal pressure on the politicians to take care of the environmental issues. On the other hand, because China is bigger and bigger, I think the international community will also put more pressure on Chinese government to take care of the environmental issues. So on these two fronts, I think the answer should be definitely yes, right?
Yes, we make effort, but I think this effort should be increased. Should put more in. Yeah.
China's booming economy during the last 30 years had led to the building of enormous manufacturing factories, industrial plants, power plants, and other facilities that produce huge amounts of air pollutants. This rapid industrialization, population growth, and lax environment oversight have caused many environmental issues and large-scale pollution. According to the Global Carbon Project, China is the largest emitter of carbon dioxide in the world. The World Bank estimates that 16 of the world's most polluted cities are located in China. The growing attention upon environmental matters caused the Chinese government to display an increased level of concern towards environmental issues. Now, they include environmental quality standards, emission standards, and basic environmental criteria. The National Congress also established an Environmental and Resource Protection Committee to take care of these issues. In March 2014, the President Xi Jinping declared war on pollution during the opening of National People's Congress. After extensive debate, the parliament approved a new environmental taxes and new environmental law, empowering environmental enforcement agencies with great punitive power, defining areas which required extra protection, and giving independent environmental groups more ability to operate in the country. China is a country of extremes. It is at once the world's biggest polluter and the top global investor in clean energy and clean production. The government draw three major policies to the environmental protection, putting prevention first and combining prevention with control, making the cause of pollution responsible for treating it, and intensifying environmental management. Also, as mentioned before, Made in China 2025 is a very important project which plan is to transform the country into a high-tech powerhouse that dominates advanced industries like robotics, advanced information technology like aviation, and new energy vehicles. This project will lead to a great impact worldwide and beneficial for the future environment, since China is one of the biggest producers and one of the world's biggest polluter. However, we still need to remember that China is a developing country, and the local governments are more interested in targeting economic growth at any cost. So sustainable growth will still demand a little bit more time.
No. I don't think Chinese is the leader. I think we are the partner. We are the partner to make our world better and better. We're not the leader. Communicate with other countries. We want the world to become better and better, but we don't want to be the leader, right?
There will be like a lot of powerful countries in the world system, but it's like from my point of view, it's not really possible for China to be the most powerful one.
No matter which country will be the most powerful one, the most important thing is that every country should cooperate with each other.
What is power? Power is the ability to do, to impose, or to prevent others from doing something. China's power, obviously, has rocketed for the past few years. A key for understanding these geopolitical stakes is to understand China's vision, its ambition. So China has been one of the world's greatest powers for centuries, but then comes the times of chaos, of humiliation, of trauma. And this is very important because what we see today is not a simple emergence, it's actually a re-emergence, it's a revenge on history. China actually wants to retrieve its initial position. This is the aim of China 2025, become the number one in the world. What is striking here is that China gets stronger and stronger in all the vectors of power. The economy, military, power projection, but how? With the rise of Chinese economy comes the rise of its military power. Today, China has the second largest army in the world, and the budget increased by 8% this year. They even unveiled their first homemade aircraft carrier this year, 100% made in China technology. This is a strong message. We are able to catch up. But the aim of this search of military power is not the military power itself. It is to guarantee what they call their vital interest, the preservation of growth. But how? The Belt and Road Initiative. This is the most ambitious transnational infrastructure project in modern history. It is a multi-trillion-dollar project connecting 3 continents, 60% of world's population, through corridors, pipelines, and secured maritime routes. This is designed to reroute the global trade around China. This is how China plans to become the world's next superpower. China has become a net importer in oil, so huge dependence on external natural resources. The Belt and Road Initiative enables China to secure strategic routes and points through bilateral agreements and partnerships. Basically, they help fund and construct infrastructure projects such as ports, railways, and pipelines. This is how they grow their influence in Africa. They established their first overseas military base in Djibouti to secure the strategic Strait of Bab el-Mandeb, hence securing the supply in oil and gas. This is also how they dominate their direct environment. In the Indian Ocean, they operate the String of Pearls strategy, which consists in establishing military bases and facilities in partner countries so that they secure the Strait of Malacca and strangle their rival, India. The Belt and Road Initiative embodies the rising regional and global political power of China. This is perceived as a threat for the established Western powers, which generates tensions. French President Macron qualified the project as an hegemonic risk, and the USA is expected to transfer the majority of its military forces and fleets to Asia-Pacific, up to 60%. This is a huge shift in the geopolitical paradigm.
In summary, all those information show that there are rising tensions in the world which arise from China's growth and China's impact on the world. There will be a change in the balance of power in military, economy, culture, and politics. This also emphasizes the increased responsibility of China's decision regarding the world. The era when globalization seemed like a process that could create only common interests between China and the West is over. It is now giving way to a time that looks altogether darker and more dangerous. As Trump might put it,
There's something going on that's really, really bad.